Oh, look, there's a huge disconnect between the value of the project and the market cap of the company. So, look, I think the risk is quite low because we are at the bottom of this cycle. And look, the financial markets probably globally have been impacted significantly with what's been going on, particularly in Europe. And I fully intend to see those become 10 baggers. So I'm definitely pushing that barrow.
80% of global vanadium production is controlled by China and Russia. In times of geopolitical conflicts and deglobalization, such metals as vanadium play a key role in the game of geopolitics. Therefore, world-class projects within, let's say, the western part of the world are definitely needed and from critical importance. And today with me is Paul Burton. He is the managing director of an Australian company called Surefire Resources. Paul, thank you very much for your time. It's great having you.
Thanks very much, Jan. It's good to be here.
So why don't you just give us an overview about the vanadium market in general before we talk more about your world-class Victory Bore project in the western part of Australia?
Sure, the vanadium market is growing, sort of about 6% year on year. It's principally still used in the steel industry and mainly for strengthening agents within the steel industry. So for your reinforced bars, more vanadium goes into them now. So a very important product for the industrial world. But it's also growing more to the alternative energy as well now, into the vanadium redox batteries. So these are very large storage batteries, and China's probably leading the way in developing these now. But they are starting to get used throughout the Western world, and indeed, particularly in Europe. And there's a great appetite for them here in Australia as well. So we can expect to see vanadium have a very, very good future with this alternative energy.
And can you tell us a little bit more maybe about the supply-demand situations here? Is it kind of even? Are we in an over or under supply? Is there any thoughts you can give us? So how important is a project like yours at the moment?
Structurally, I think supply-demand is about even at the moment. So you have global demand is about 110,000 tons per annum. So we have, a situation where there is a number of strong producers. China produces all of its vanadium. A lot is shipped out of Brazil. There's a large mine there, Largo, and South Africa is also an important producer. But then, as you mentioned, you have China and Russia as the main producers, and obviously they have their restrictions on whether or not they can be the real suppliers in the future. So it's very important, I think, strategically to have vanadium producers outside of those countries that can supply the needs for all of the Western world as we move into this very important alternative energy focus.
Absolutely, and as you already said, there's growing potential for the demand. We're talking about the vanadium redox batteries. They are good for energy storage and for making the baseload energy out of wind and solar panels. We need something to store energy, and I think vanadium redox batteries is a way to go, and therefore we obviously need vanadium. It has vanadium in the name already. So it's great that we're talking today, but before we dive in a little bit deeper, let's talk about you and the management team, because I'm always telling our investors that you need to have a great project. You have to be in a great jurisdiction, all this kind of stuff for sure. But in the end, the management team is responsible for my money. So what I want to know from an investor point of view is, first, are you guys invested? Do you have skin in the game, as they say? And second, what is your background? Why do you think you can make it a success?
Yeah, well, look, my background is I'm a geologist, and I've been in exploration in Australia around the world for many years, about 30 years. And the last 15, 16 years, I've been more in the corporate world, running ASX-listed companies, and been quite successful at that. And indeed, prior to joining Surefire, I was working with running a company that was developing a very large vanadium and magnetite deposit as well. So I would say, a lot of vanadium experience within Australia in delivering these types of projects, because they're not the mainstream type of minerals that people are aware of. So they do take a little bit of a different approach to them. So I joined Surefire in February last year. I've got 10 million shares that I bought in the company, and I fully intend to see those become 10 baggers. So I'm definitely pushing that barrow. Our chairman is the largest shareholder. He has about 15%, and all the board and management have got significant shareholdings themselves as well. So we're all in it, and we want to see it succeed. For a small company, we just have the right amount of experience to deliver this project, and more importantly, attract some of the big tier one groups to partner with us and to develop it.
Yeah, that's good and great to hear that you personally have skin in the game. As I told our audience, we have worked with Jan de Jagger before, so we know the team, and that's always good if you have a good and experienced team. So the box is ticked, right? We do have the market situation that's ticked. We need vanadium. We do have the team situation. The box is also ticked. Let's talk about the project itself. Victory Bore, located Western Australia, 500 million capex, 1.1 billion, NPV, IRR of 42%. That doesn't sound too bad. In fact, it sounds really good to me. And I want to know more. I mean, are we talking here about a world-class vanadium and iron ore project? And let's talk about your market cap also. You have like a 15 million Aussie dollar market cap, and we're talking about $1 billion potential on the other side. Is this a potential of a lifetime here? Tell us a little bit more from an investment point of view.
Oh, look, there's a huge disconnect between the value of the project and the market cap of the company. So as we start to progress the project, you're going to see that gap tighten. So yeah, it is a huge opportunity, as you mentioned. So we're very excited about that. Yeah, the project is a world-class project. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the largest in Australia. In fact, probably the largest in Western Australia. It extends for over 21 kilometers of continuous strike length of vanadium-bearing magnetite. It's exposed, it's on the surface all the way, and it's close to a gas pipeline, close to a heavy-duty bitumen road to get it down to the port. So we have good infrastructure around it. We have a very, very nice resource. It's exposed on surface. The strip ratio for ore to waste is less than 1. So it's a very, very good economic state-based deposit. And you saw the metrics that came from the pre-feasibility that we did. This gives us a very, very strong base to move forward, and the board's very excited about it.
That's good to hear. So we talked about the upside potential, and I think there is a lot, as you already pointed out. We're talking about a world-class project with like 15 million market cap. What kind of risk are we talking about? The Australian financial market are kind of at the bottom. We're also talking about only 15 million market cap with such a high potential. How far can the share price go down for someone who's buying today? How much is the risk, in your opinion?
Oh, look, I think the risk is quite low because we are at the bottom of this cycle, and look, the financial markets probably globally have been impacted significantly with what's been going on, particularly in Europe with the wars and also the Middle East. So I mean, look, it's a huge opportunity from that perspective. I think there's a lot of undervalued stocks around. We are all in the same boat. I mean, with all the other resource and other stocks, they've been heavily sold off, and that usually provides a very good buying opportunity.
I mean, let's face it, we're talking, as I'm already pointed out, about only 15 million market cap. But on the other hand, I've seen juniors without a resource, without any economic studies trading way higher. So I think we should definitely point it out. You have all of this. You have a resource, you have a pre-feasibility study, you have de-risked the project already, and let's talk about the path going forward. You also have a strategy, right? Let's talk about the Saudi Arabia strategy. What makes you so excited? Why could this be your preferred option with Saudi Arabia? What do you want to do?
Well, I mean, Saudi Arabia was a choice for us because we wanted to keep the power costs down. So that was the initial attraction. But let me just step back a bit. To build a downstream processing plant at a mine site in Australia has become extremely expensive. So those other hopeful producers that want to do the downstream processing on site. We're seeing capital blowouts, and even when they get into operation, their operating costs are only going north all the time. So the margins are getting squeezed, and you're seeing people just closing down their operations. So we decided to look a little bit outside of the box, and we wanted to find a jurisdiction that had very low power, that keeps us down in the very lowest operating quartile. And the key to Saudi Arabia was the fact that they were actually attracting downstream mineral processing into the kingdom. So when we first engaged with them, they were like selling the kingdom to us, and we were trying to sell our project to them. So it was an extremely good meeting. So they as they move away from their oil and gas dependency, they're moving more into downstream processing of minerals, and they want to create an industrial hub. The Saudi Arabia to be or the Middle East to be the main hub for minerals processing to compete against the places like China and Asia in general. So they have good incentives to build projects there. Up to 75% of the capex is available from the Saudi Investment Development Fund. Now, this is an enormous leap forward for our project and the project finance. So what it leaves us with is a very simple operation in Australia, where an open cut mine, magnetic separation to produce the magnetite, truck it down to the port, ship across to Saudi Arabia, where they have constructed these industrial hubs. So all the utilities are there. You've got the power, you've got water, all the utilities, railways, close to port. That's a huge difference between to building a plant there in existing utilities to building a plant in the middle of the bush where there's no utilities. So it keeps our capex down, and more importantly, as we get into operation, our operating costs will be the lowest.
That's very great, and I think not many companies have this kind of plan going forward from your station. So it's great to have like an overview what could happen in the future. But let's also talk about the plan B, if you like, right? You don't just rely on Saudi Arabia, you're also looking for alternatives. I mean, you could ship the ore everywhere, basically. So what could be a potential plan B if Saudi Arabia is not the way to go in the future?
Well, our deposit is principally a magnetite. So most of it is iron, and the vanadium and the titanium are sort of byproducts with it, if you like. Although the vanadium is the highest value, we obviously produce more iron. So it makes sense for us to consider as a plan B shipping the concentrate directly to steel mills or blast furnaces that can take this type of concentrate. And they do exist, mainly in China. So a plan B, or in fact a staged part of our development plan, would be once we can produce the concentrate to actually start shipping that concentrate to a blast furnace or steel furnace that will buy it from us at good prices, because you get both the magnetite price and then a vanadium premium on top for these mills, and that can give us an earlier revenue stream, earlier cash flow, while we're still in the process of constructing the downstream processes in Saudi. So that's a plan B, and that's one that we're very excited about and looking into very strongly, with having some good meetings with knowledgeable Chinese groups that like these resources and need to have them imported into China.
Great. All right, perfect. So all the boxes are ticked, if you like, and overall it looks like a complex story because not many investors are that familiar with vanadium, but if you break it down a little bit, it's a very easy story. You have a product, this is definitely needed for the world. You have a world-class project in Western Australia, a good jurisdiction to be in for a mining company, and you also have a plan going forward. Your management team is experienced, you guys have skin in the game, so a lot of boxes are ticked. Maybe Paul, just for the end, can we dive a little bit deeper in, because you're coming from a geologist point of view, and I know many investors got the story, they know what to do, but some people are definitely interested in what is the combination. You have iron ore, you have vanadium, you have a rock in front of you, the magnetite. Can you tell us a little bit more about vanadium, iron, how does it come together? And give us a little bit more insight in the rock. What does all of this mean? Why are we talking about premium iron ore in your presentation as well?
Yeah, well, look, this is the rock. This is actually the Victory Bore rock from surface. We've polished it on one side. It's a magnetite. So magnetites are part of an intrusive complex that comes to surface, and quite often the host rock contains a lot of magnetites, and vanadium is part of that sort of hydrothermal system that creates the intrusive package. So you get these things called titanomagnetites, and that's essentially what it is. It's a vanadium-bearing magnetite and titanium. So that's essentially how they form, and they're not rare. They occur probably everywhere in the world. What is rare is to have them close to infrastructure that allows them to be economically exploited. That's the key. So there's a lot of them around, but there's a lot of them are stranded deposits. So they do need to be near infrastructure for them to be exploited. So the
Great.
vanadium is usually a small percentage in the whole intrusive, and the titanium is around about 8 or 9%. So the majority is iron in a magnetite form, and that means it's really a magnetite ore body. And from that, as you separate out the titanium and take out the vanadium, you get left with iron. And that iron is a high purity iron, taking the process design that we have, because we can get it upgraded to over 99% pure iron. So that means it's a high grade iron for then going into high grade steels. We can also address the iron pigment market. We can also take that product and create a mid-tier steel product, as in pig iron. So the iron gives us a number of products, and the vanadium as well. We can get 2 or 3 products out. There's vanadium pentoxide, ferrovanadium, and the vanadium electrolyte for the batteries, importantly. So our plan, and this is also a careful strategic design by us, is to have as much products as we can out of the one resource, so that you buffer any price decrease or massive escalations in places. Allows you to control your revenue stream much more greatly than if you're focusing on just on one product. Our view is that companies that are focusing just on the one product, vanadium, will find it very difficult, I think, to actually find that it's going to be very economic. The existing producers in the world, in South Africa and say Brazil and Largo, they're struggling. They really are struggling. The vanadium price is quite low, and they can only sell vanadium. Their design is only for vanadium. So that's a real plus for us, that we can produce and design at this early stage, designed to make the most out of the resource that we have.
Great. So, Paul, maybe just for the end, there are some vanadium companies out there. There are some other in Australia out there. But what separates you? What makes you so special? And why are you with this company and not with any others? Bring it to the point. Why should someone who's considering investing into a vanadium junior investing into your company?
Well, I think the fact that the resource is so big. The resource is a very, very good quality resource. It's in a good location, and we have a development pathway that sets us apart from our other ones. We don't have a very high degree of weathering, so we don't have to remove millions and millions of tons and dig down to over 50 meters before we get to our fresh ore body. And that's very important when you compare us to some of the other vanadium deposits. A lot of them are very heavily weathered. They have a mining problem, and that would be very costly later on. So we can get into our ore body from the get-go, and I think with our development pathway and the plan B as well, we are covering off on all potential bases to ensure that this will get into production.
That sounds like a plan. Thank you very much for summing up the story, telling us more and giving us also details into the geology here. It was really interesting for me and to our investors. You can look up all the informations in German at axinocapital.de/Surefire. Paul Burton, thank you very much for your time. It was great having you.